jotting down some notes about time here, people. Time is good / bad. Unfortunately, when you get to clocks, it's not in our base 10 sort of thing, but they've got a couple other things you should know. Let's make sure you've got the, the smallest thing we really have is seconds, right? We can split those into tenths or whatever, but if you put how many seconds together, you get a minute?
60. Oh no, not again.
Oh, I got it here, don't worry.
Okay. Easy computer.
I think we're just gonna start over. How about that? Time, we got seconds. 60 of those seconds put together is a minute. 60 of those minutes put together is 1 hour. 24 hours put together is a day. 365.
Makes 1 year.
Wait, is it leap year next year? This
It's
year?
actually
Do we have leap year this year?
365.2.
Is it 0.2, 0.25 maybe? The book says this, we call this a year. Our book says it's called a common year. So whatever, if you hear them say a common year, they're just telling you that it is not a leap year. That's when there's 366 days in a leap year. Is that right? Yeah. And then if we string some years together, if you put 10 years together, you get a decade. If we put 100 years together,
Century.
it is a century. I'm gonna try this. It hasn't worked too much today, but
How much is an Ian?
I don't know if an Ian is actually a unit of time or not. It's a long time, I think.
So.
Where are we at here? What did I say? 100 years was a century. If you put 1,000 years, nobody? What year were you guys born?
2004.
5 and 4.
5 and 4.
1,000 years is, Faith, you know what 1,000 years is called?
Ooh. No.
Anybody? Abram?
Yeah.
No, it's a millennium.
What's that?
You kids are way too young to know, but between the year 1999 and 2000, this was it's a huge year because it is not only a new decade, but a new century, but also a new millennium. And ask your parents to tell you about, they called it Y2K, which stands for the year 2000. K stands short for 1,000. And there was a whole hubbub that the world might possibly end. Does anybody know why?
Because it's a new millennium.
But why? Why did the new millennium, why did people think that there was going to be, they thought the power was going to go out, they thought that, airplanes were going to crash, they thought all sorts of stuff were going to happen.
The
Anybody
Twin
know
Towers
why?
did crash.
Is what?
The Twin Towers did.
In 01.
Oh,
Good try. Wait, Davis, why did they
Because
think,
it was the 20th century.
actually,
21st.
yeah, and there's something you're confused about. Think about this, people. Listen to this. I don't know if we've talked about this in other classes. If it is the 18th century,
It is the 1700s.
okay, even though that says the 18th century, like Evelyn said, okay, the 18th century consists of all the years that have the 1700s in them, like 1776. That is the 18th century because, it's just like your birthday, okay? You are in, let's say Parker right now, how old are you? Parker is 11 years old, but he's in his 12th year. He's already completed 11 years, so he's in his 12th year. Same thing with centuries. even though we're in the year 2000, whatever we are, 15 now, we are now, it's the 21st century. Okay, so that gets a little confusing. When they talk about something being made in the 6th century, that means it was made sometime in the 500s, 501, 502, 515, 5 whatever. So you always have to think, when they tell you centuries, you think back a year.
If it's like 20, if it's the 20th century, we completed 20 centuries.
We're done with 20 centuries. Now we're in our 21st centuries. Alright, got that? So think about that. We are now in the 21st century. Oh, back to this question though. Nobody still gave me the reason why was everything supposed to come to a screeching halt. They were telling people to have, weeks worth of food and water and stuff because of all this. Yeah, it was kind of like a doomsday thing. Carter?
Because it was exactly 20 instead of 21.
Yeah. Evelyn? I'll get one more guess and then I'll tell you what the deal is with it. I'm guessing you're guessing? What happened was this. Pretty much everything we do these days is somehow related with computers. Alright? And the guys, computers have been around since like the late 60s, early 70s-ish. And the people, they were afraid that the people who made these computers back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 1990s, they never thought ahead to when the millennium, the year 2000, would change. And most computers, when you put dates in them, you only give the last 2 digits. So they were afraid that when that year 2000 came up and 2 zeros ended up being put in for the date, that these computers wouldn't know what to do with it, and they would actually freeze up, lock, and crash. And if you can't imagine what would happen if all the bank's computers broke down, if all the satellite computers all shut down, and that's what they were afraid was going to happen, was that computers wouldn't know how to handle a new turn in that 00, because usually computers, when you enter the date, you just put month, date, and year. That's usually how you enter stuff in computers. You don't usually put the whole 2000. And the people in the 1970s, they weren't thinking about that far ahead. How many of you guys are thinking about stuff 40 years from now, what you'll be doing in 2055? Anybody? Avon, what are you going to do in 2055?
I might be either working for an electronic place like Microsoft or something.
Oh, you think Microsoft will still be around in 50 years?
No.
Yeah, you do work better.
We've got to forge ahead here. Okay. Now, here's the problem when it comes to dealing with time, people. Some of you still struggle, I bet, a little bit with time. Our number system, it deals in tens. And there's an issue when, you have 60 seconds make up a minute. If there were 10 seconds in a minute, life would be so much easier. If there's only 10 minutes an hour, life would be so much easier. But now you have to deal with 60 seconds. They're going to ask you some questions like this. Write this one down. Here's one. Write this one down. Let's see if we can figure this out. And there's no easy way to do this. Raven and Company, which is her friend. Raven and Company went to a movie. Spelled went wrong. A movie that was. Okay, back there. That was 2 hours and 5 minutes long. It ended at 9:20. What time did it begin? What time did it start? Maybe they don't give you too many hard ones here. How are you going to figure out how to do this one here? Abram, don't give me the answer. Tell me how you're going to get the answer.
Well, first, you gotta subtract the hour.
Alright, so I'm starting with 9:20. This is the hours. This is the minutes. So you said I'm going to subtract the hour, which is
2 hours.
2 hours. and I get 7, right?
And then you minus the minute,
Which is,
5 minutes.
so I get
15.
15.
And then put your one.
Okay. Now, what about this question though? What if I change that to say that the movie was 2 hours, 25 minutes long, and instead of subtracting 5, I actually have to subtract 25 minutes from that? Right. And this is what I'm talking about, when life would be so much easier if there was just 10 minutes in an hour and that. Alright? Carter, what would you have to do?
You'd have to go to the 7 hours and subtract it by 1.
Well, you could, but I'm gonna start right back at this point right here. Let's start over here and do the minutes first. If I can't take 25 minutes from 20 minutes, what do I have to do? What do you do in normal subtraction when you can't take, when you're trying to take a bigger thing from a smaller thing?
Make the 0 10, make the 2 a 1.
What? Make
What?
the 0
What? 2 a 10.
What?
Yes, but with time you probably should do it a little bit differently than that. You kinda gotta look at this as all one big piece right here. You could do what you're doing there, but I think it'd be easier to think about it this way. Grant?
Put the 45 on top.
No, you can't just flip flop things in subtraction. That'd be nice. Wade?
You borrow from the 9.
Okay, you need to take an hour away from the hours and make it an 8. But the thing is this, because there's 60 minutes in an hour, not just 10, you need to take that hour, which is 60 minutes, and add 60 to the 20. It's 20 plus 60. Mrs. Nolan?
It's 80.
It is 80. Okay, because you're taking 60 minutes away from this and putting it there. Like I said, it'd be a lot easier if everything was based on tens, because then it'd be like normal, and you could have done exactly what the Carter or Abrams said and moved that over. But as it is like this, you have to take 60 minutes away. Then you can do the problem 25 and do your bar like that. You get 55, and then 2 from 8 is 655. So you have to be very careful with time when you add and subtract. Same thing if you have this. What if you have 5 hours, 32 minutes, and you're adding 4 hours, 40 minutes to it? Well, if I add 32 minutes and 40 minutes, how many minutes do I have?
72.
72 minutes.
So,
Okay, but we don't ever say 72 minutes because just like with math, when we get higher than 10, we have to move something over. So 72 minutes, if I said, you know, you have to come in 72 minutes, what would we, how would we normally say that? 72 minutes is what? How many hours, how many minutes?
an hour and 12 minutes.
An hour, 12 minutes. So you have to take away 60 minutes, which is an hour. If you take 60 minutes away from 72, you get 12 minutes. That makes this, and you're carrying that over, that makes that a 6, so you end up with 10 hours, 12 minutes. Simply just because, you know, by the way, why did somebody make it 60 minutes? Did I do that wrong? Dylan? You're looking, that was addition, this is subtraction.
Okay, that makes so much more sense.
That makes so much sense, that's what I was thinking. Oh, you know what, the other thing is, go back to your notes under time. Something else you have to be, not get too mixed up about, write this down, is, what do we know about AMs and PMs?
AM's in the morning, PM's in the
AM
afternoon.
is before noon, midnight to noon.
Somebody who has their hand raised. Difference between AMs and PMs. Abram, what's AM?
AM is, in the morning.
Okay, AM is morning, which would mean, and here's one thing you have to remember. One place where people get confused is on our clock system, we've got two 12 o'clocks. You've got the 12 o'clock, which is at night, and you've got the 12 o'clock, which is in the middle of the day. Now, which one, and only one of them is AM and only one of them is PM, which one is which? Amelia?
Midnight, the one at night is AM,
and the one during the day is PM.
Correct. Make sure you get that right. Okay, so 1 o'clock AM, 2 o'clock AM, you'd be still sleeping hopefully. 3 o'clock AM, you're still sleeping. Usually, hopefully you're up by like 6 or 7 o'clock
Yes.
AM.
6.
And then PM is all the afternoon kind of stuff, you know, you're watching TV at 6 o'clock PM or whatever you're doing, homework, basketball practice, whatever that stuff is.
Computer.
Now, in addition to that, oh, I hope we don't run out of time. In addition to that, we've got what's called military time.
Yes,
I don't like that.
Yeah.
Why does the military have their own little time system? It's very similar to what we have, but why do you suppose the military has their own little time system different than ours? Parker? It's called military, right?
Yeah.
Because they might not want anyone tracking what time they're at.
Everybody knows military time, so they're not gonna confuse the enemy so much. Faith?
Because time is different around.
Yes, but it'd still be military time different around the world. Military time doesn't stay consistent around the world either, I don't believe. Jack?
Because when you go around the clock, you think, alright, 12, and then after that is 1. Instead, they just keep on going around the
But
clock.
why do they do that? That's
To
my
make it
question.
easier?
Yeah, I think that's probably it. Because in the military, people, they do so many things at night and in the day. For them to have to keep saying 6 o'clock AM or PM or 3 o'clock AM or PM, it would just be way too confusing for them.
So they just say
Okay.
1200.
Right, so they start with 000, which would be your midnight,
1200 and 0.
and then they go 100, which is 1 o'clock AM. These are all the AMs. And then if you say 1200 hours, that is your noon time. And then they keep adding.
Like
So 1300 is the same as 1 o'clock. You just have to, if the number is bigger than 12, you just have to subtract 12 from it to see what it would be. So if it was 1700 hours, take 12 away from 17 and you're gonna get, it's 2 o'clock PM. And that way there's never any confusion as to when you say, 3 o'clock, is that AM, PM, writing all that down? Bert?
Doesn't it go to 24 and then start over?
Is it 2400 hours?
Yeah,
it's 24 and it goes back to 0.
24 is
No, well, there's gotta be 23. Is 000 the same as 2400? It'd have to be.
It's then it goes back.
It'd have to be. I don't know, I'm not.
No, once it hits 23:59, it goes back to 1 o'clock. It's 0.
No, I've heard 2400 hours and I've heard 000 hours. I've heard both. But they gotta be the same thing, cause that would be the same.
They are the same thing.
I would think.
Yeah.
Again, I thought I was wrong once, but I was wrong, so I'm taking that for the way it works there. I don't know if actually military time came up in here, but I thought I would waste your time with it a little bit more.
Yay.
Do look in your books, please, on page 175. 175.